Welcome everyone today, and if you would like a really awesome and cool jersey like the one I'm wearing right now, be sure to use code FloppyPENGuinn10 at Coolwick.com to get a 10% off discount on your next awesome order from Coolwick. Be cool with Coolwick bowling jerseys. What's up everyone? Hello everyone. Hey guys, welcome to today's video. I'm Daniel. I'm here in Iowa, Gold Coast Casino. I'm ready to give you guys another vlog. Hello everyone, and please join me in extending a warm welcome to Zachary, who's going to be joining us on today's video. I have a special announcement first to start us off before we get into who this guy is, and that is we have a Francois Laval clinic coming up here in Jacksonville. So if you're in the area or if you're anywhere in Florida, be sure to check the bowlersmart.com website. Type in the word clinic into the search bar, CLINIC, and it will bring it right up, and you can sign up at one of the 3 locations that we will be doing them at back-to-back days. And it's very exciting, and you get a ball of your choice from any of the Storm, 900 Global, or Rotogrip lines, and it includes drilling and grips and slug, all for $299, and you get a very nice coaching clinic from Francois Laval himself as well. So now let's dive into today's topic. We're going to answer the question, how are two-handers different than one-handers, or those that use their thumb like me? So I've brought in resident expert himself, Zachary, today to talk about what it's like to bowl without his thumb, because he is a two-hander. So Zachary, kind of give us a background. Who are you?
So my name is Zach, and I am a two-hander. With being two-handed and everything, some people think it's easier, but I think it's a little bit harder because of how much our rev rates differ in bowling. Like with a ball change, I think a ball change is a lot more stressful for a two-hander because you have to think about what kind of ball you're going to switch to, how it's going to affect the lane, how you're going to read the lane with the new ball. It can just all around be a lot more difficult mentally for a two-hander.
And you brought this rotogrip hustle to kind of explain to us an analogy that you brought up to me a little bit ago that inspired this video. So tell us, why do you have the hustle, and what was that analogy that you wanted to bring?
So I have the hustle just to show that this is a shiny symmetrical ball. It's kind of a standard little starter ball for whoever wants to get into bowling or whatever, have a little bit more impact on the lane. I was saying how if I were to make a switch off of the hustle to another symmetrical solid ball, let's say the Rockstar. If me and Daniel were both throwing the hustle to start our 3-game league, and we started with the hustle and we switched to the Rockstar, there would be a lot more to differ between how we are going to shoot the ball. I'm going to be forced more left because the ball is going to start reading sooner. I'm going to have a higher rev rate. It's going to start picking up sooner on the lane than his would. His would typically hold a little bit longer, have less of that arc in the reaction down lane. It's just going back to what I said about how reading the lane for a two-hander can be different because with a higher rev rate, it's just more to think about on the lane.
And what do you think is the biggest difference that causes the different ways that one-handers and no-thumb bowlers read the lanes?
I think one of the bigger things is either going to be the rev rate and your ball speed. Most one-handers don't have a lot of revs, and they have more ball speed because of their backswing. A lot of two-handers have more of that little less of a backswing on their approach. It causes their ball speed to go down, but they still create that higher rev rate. So the ball reaction is just going to be a little bit more dramatic, especially if your ball speed's lower for what your rev rate should be for a one-hander. I'm a rev-dominant bowler two-handed, and it's caused a lot of trouble for me in league and house shots because of how high my rev rate is and how low my ball speed is. I have to force myself a lot more left than how I would want because I have to give that ball time to get down, give it a little bit more room to hook off of because of how low my ball speed is.
And I've often said to customers here at BowlerSmart that the biggest struggle, most of the time, not always, but most of the time, the biggest struggle for no-thumb bowlers is their ball speed. And so, that's what Zachary was just kind of mentioning here, that he is rev dominant and he has struggled with that ball speed a little bit. And so when you are bowling without your thumb, the biggest goal is to get your ball speed up, in my opinion. And once you can achieve that, getting the ball off your hand at least like that 17 to 18 miles an hour, it helps out your ball reaction dramatically, because a lot of the time what will happen is your ball will overhook and hook too much. It'll want to go towards the 7-pin for righties or the 10-pin for lefties, and so it's very difficult to control your ball reaction. So do you have any tips on how that a no-thumb bowler could increase their ball speed?
I'd say one of your biggest things is you're going to have to use your legs a lot more than your arm. If you try and muscle the ball, your accuracy is going to go down and your ball speed might go up a tad bit, but then your rev rate's going to go down. Muscling the ball is generally going to look like dropping your shoulder a lot. It's going to look like falling over off your shot, not posting. It's going to be detrimental that you at least pay attention to the changes you're making, if it's for the good or for the worse. What I did to kind of help my ball speed go up about half a mile to a mile per hour higher is just I shortened my approach and I used way more of my legs and my arms. I didn't really focus as much on getting revs off the ball, more of getting the ball down lane and seeing how it would react from there and then adjusting off of that, because the ball speed is really what mattered to me the most.
Now, the last question that I'll ask you is, how much does your spine tilt or your knee bend play a part in the ball speed that you can generate as a two-handed bowler?
So let's start with the spine tilt one. So I think your spine tilt can affect your ball speed dramatically, because if you aren't steady and straight up with the ball, it's going to either cause your timing to be off, and then it's going to have all that momentum being lost in your swing and follow through on there, and it's going to open you up to just like worse habits, in my opinion, for that part. Because whenever I first started two-handing bowling, my spine tilt was horrible. Like, I was super hunched over on the ball at the end of my swing. I ended up getting it in timing with myself, but then it created more problems with ball speed and accuracy, in my opinion.
For somebody that doesn't know, what do you mean by having a bad spine tilt? What does that actually look like?
So having a bad spine tilt is going to look like your back, whenever you have the ball, you're going to be here staring dead at your feet instead of at your target. And
almost like a 90-degree angle,
yeah,
right?
Almost like a 90-degree angle.
From where your legs are to where your shoulders are would be like a 90-degree angle almost.
Yep.
And what do you think about the knee bend now? How much does the knee bend play a part into it?
I think the knee bend plays a pretty significant part in it too, because knee bend is just so significant in a lot of people's game, because it helps with the balance and posting your shot, in my opinion. And normally, if I'm trying to keep my legs straight and stand straight up, it might highlight more of the problems I have whenever I'm bowling, because I'm too focused on one issue. It's causing 5 more to flare out, and then it's just wrecking my game from there at that point.
Are there any other tips that you have for two-handed or no-thumb bowlers?
I do have a tip for spare shooting. Flatten your hand out on your spare ball. If you can flatten your hand out and decrease just a little bit amount of the revs you're getting on your spare ball, you will see a dramatic difference. Flattening your hand out and pushing it through the oil will definitely help your spare game. What I do is I would take some hand out of the ball instead of being in the ball all the way. I take some hand out, keep my hand flat and on the palm, and instead of focusing on getting that wrist to turn at the end, I more or less just focus on getting that push and roll off at the end instead of trying to get the revs to go on there.
So you could say that he's focusing more on this part of his hand closer to the bottom of his fingers rather than the meaty part here down towards his thumb. Is that right?
That is absolutely right.
Okay. All right. So thank you for joining us for today's video, talking about the primary differences between no-thumb bowlers and thumb bowlers. Be sure to subscribe below and leave a comment if you like Zach or if you hate him. Doesn't matter. Just leave a comment down below to let us know. And then we might see him in future videos if you like him, or if you don't, well, sorry, Zach, but people's choice. So thanks, everybody. Be sure to share this with a friend that either uses their thumb or doesn't. Doesn't matter. If they're a bowler, send it to them. We'll see you next time. God bless, and have a great rest of your day.